Hello everybody, good morning, welcome to the United Stand. I'm Mark Goldbridge, and I tell you what, I've just been down the shops. They're not even United fans, and I'm just walking around the shop, just doing that. I just can't stop doing that. It's just, we've all got that feeling this morning. Lots to talk about. Amorim sitting down his haters, Ligt and Ahmad back, transfer stories, the big debrief on last night. It was all positive last night, but we probably should talk about some of the realisms from last night, of course, as well. We'll do that. How are you feeling? I just want to say what I said last night. I did stay up late. I did finish the red wine. And you're an amazing community. That's just what we have. And this is why I'm doing it again. Look, I literally just want to walk around going like that. You know, the missus made me a cup of coffee and I went like that. It's just one of them days where, you know, you're just walking around fist in the air. It's great. Love it. And this is why we do it. But lots to get into. The latest on Turkey, the latest on a few ins and outs coming in from David Ornstein that came in yesterday. Europa League, look, we've got to get real. Honestly, we've had 1.1 million views on the watch along from last night, and it keeps going up. And I think it's because people are doing what I'm doing. You're watching the highlights, and then you're watching that last 15 minutes of the watch along and just living that despair to ecstasy because it's just so captivating. But I'll be honest, you know, when I was watching the highlights back this morning and it went from 2-0 to 2-2 to 4-2, I was fuming again. You just get lost in it, and you've got to look at that. Orange says, are you buying the hoodie now? I think a few people are getting lost on the hoodie. I said, I'll buy Amorim's hoodie if we sign Osimhen. But John said, and John needs a big shout out here, John said the hoodie I was wearing on Wednesday night that said boss on it, he said, wear it tomorrow, a superstitious, we need it to win. I wore it and we won. And also, I think for the semi-finals, it's that hoodie that says boss and a bottle of good red wine. You know, it's going to... I've just got to keep it going now. Whatever your little routines are, keep them going as well, because last night was ridiculously special. Let's get into the news. Just as well. Seb, you'll know who Seb is, my lad. He's only 7. He went to bed at 2-0. This morning, I took him into the living room and I said, highlights, didn't let him see the score, made him club at his eyes and went, watch this. And his face just, he had no idea what was going to happen. At 4-2 down, he looked really sad. When Maguire scores that, his favourite player, you know, that's what football's all about. And that's what I said last night. The positivity that we take from that is incredible. And I tell you what, it's funny because I think Amorim has silenced his haters because, and I think the thumbnail says never again. I would implore any United fan that's negative to stop listening to the negative outlets out there who suddenly last night are faking it, going, oh yeah, United. You were hammering out on Sunday. You didn't think the Manchester derby was very good. The system's the problem. You know, all this. Well, I'm sorry. We've kept the receipts, ladies and gentlemen. You can't go from Amorim out to, oh yeah, United. What's that all about? Maybe learn the lesson of what everybody's been saying. This manager is swimming in the sewers. He's had one signing. He's been brought into an absolute wreck and he's fighting. And some of us want to fight with him. I don't understand how United fans can be so negative on Sunday, even muttering the words Amorim out, and then Thursday night they're trying to claim a madness. Come on. It's just pure ecstasy last night because we've been backing this manager. You must feel a fraud yourself to be saying Amorim out and then jumping on the bandwagon last night, talking about systems and stuff. Just get behind the bloody team, because that's why you do it. Because I tell you what, last night felt absolutely incredible to me because I backed this manager. At no point have I even questioned him. And that's pure ecstasy because we love the club. This negativity needs to stop. I don't really understand it. But look, there's a lot to unpack. I think that one thing that's probably been... I've watched it back a lot. You've watched it back a lot. There's a few things I just want to unpack in relation to... Look, there are a few players that need calling out. I agree. But one player I want to call out at the start is Mazraoui. I don't know why he went home at half-time. I don't know why Lindelof went on home at half-time. Lindelof was coming on for Mazraoui. Now, That's quite scary. But then again, we did concede 4 goals with Mazraoui going off. So could it have been any worse with Lindelof? But something's gone on with Mazraoui and Lindelof. I don't know what it is. I can speculate what it is. And obviously thoughts are with them and their families. There's a lot of people saying, is it burglaries while they're playing at a game? This is quite a common theme for footballers. We can't speculate because we haven't had the issue. We haven't had it. But I don't think it got spoken about last night a lot because everyone was just lost in the chaos. But we conceded no goals at half-time and we conceded 4 in an hour without Mazraoui. I think it messed up the whole defence. I think Maguire had a good game, Yoro had a good game, Delo had a good game, but I think Mazraoui going off hasn't been spoken about enough, and I think it absolutely just broke the rhythm of that back five. Luke Shaw had a bad game, obviously, and Dorgu had a bit of a dodgy game on that back post, but I think we massively missed Mazraoui, and I think it needs mentioning because we don't know what happened at half-time, but we conceded 4 goals without him, and it was chaos at the back. So I think Mazraoui, that needs mentioning, 100%. I also think that, look, as we bake in the enormity of that incredible night, and the words of the Stone Roses song "I Am the Resurrection" this Good Friday comes to mind. I am the resurrection and I am the life. I couldn't ever bring myself to hate you as I like. It's so true. Like, this is why we love Manchester United, and I think some people get lost in their agendas about players or managers, and ultimately the purity is what your relationship is with Manchester United. The Glazers can't take that. Certain players can't take that. It's your relationship with Manchester United, and that to me is 100% pure in love, and that's what last night was all about. We're alive. I thought we was dead. I thought we were dead last night at 4-2, live in front of you, good people. I'm dismantling in front of you mentally, thinking, what happens for the next 2 months? What happens in the summer transfer window? What happens next season? What happens for the next 3 years? It's all flashing in front of you. That's like, for 10 minutes, I'm glimpsing into the oblivion that I'm convinced would have led to a horrific summer transfer window, would have led to a horrific next season, a horrific end to the season, and probably ultimately Amorim losing his job at some point in the next 18 months. Now, we haven't avoided that. We've just delayed it. Like, we were so close, and what I'm hoping we're going to get, and I think we're going to win the Europa League, and I've said that since January, and at times you sort of like, but I think that if this team cannot be inspired by that, from Onana to Maguire, from Agate to Garnacho, from Bruno to Rasmus, if you can't wake up this morning and go, that is all that matters, then I don't know what else you can do. Like, hero to villain, villain to hero, whatever you want to call it. I mean, look, one of the goals that Lyon scored, I'm watching it back, and Maguire moves his head out of the way. If he'd have kept his head in the same place, he'd have headed it away and they wouldn't have scored. Then he goes and scores that goal. And in life, as a footballer, people aren't going to remember Harry Maguire in COVID moving Luke Shaw out the way to let Spurs score. They're going to remember Harry Maguire's goal against Lyon. And this is what we've been saying on this channel for years. Criticism is valid. But if you deliver, that's what you will be remembered for. And I think some of our players get so locked in on criticism. But Harry Maguire's going to be remembered for that goal. Unless he tops it with something else positive, he will be remembered in 10 years' time for that goal. He won't be remembered for the mistakes. And this is what the modern footballer needs to understand. The criticism from the fans is never permanent. It's because we want better. But if you deliver, you will be remembered for that. And he will be remembered for that. I'm getting goosebumps myself, but he will be remembered for that. So any United player that's waking up this morning, if they can't take this opportunity and win this Europa League, then we'll never do anything, because they've surely got to see that reaction and go, this is it. This is what it's all about. We've got to believe. We've got to work hard. but it rolls on. Like, Athletic Bilbao will be difficult over 2 legs, and we're gonna probably be in this position again in 3 weeks' time, where some penalty shootout, or it's gonna be, and then probably Spurs in the final. Which, to be honest, I'm not thinking about the final because we've got to get past Athletic Club. But that final against Spurs, I don't want. I'd rather get Lazio. I don't want a Premier League final because it's like, oh God, it's just, the jeopardy in that game is incredible. And if you lose it to Spurs, who never win a trophy, oh my God. But I can't think about that. I've got to think about the next one. And we've just got to, look at where it went wrong and move on to the next one. And it was some interesting quotes from Amorim, actually, but one of the ones that really stood out to me, I will talk about Turkey. I think a lot of people are going over the top. I'm not actually convinced, and I know there's a few people out there making out and pretending that they've got news that United are close to signing Turkey. I can tell you what the latest is on Turkey in a moment. But this is what Amorim had to say, and I think he's absolutely spot on. We have to take a risk with the kids in the Premier League. We have to focus on the Europa League. Now, that's something that we have been talking about for a very long time, and that is a direct quote from Amorim. We have to take a risk with the kids in the Premier League. We have to focus on the Europa League. And I would applaud that. I think we've been skirting the issue a bit, Ruben. I think it's been a little bit like, we've got to try in the Premier League as well. We don't. Lazio lost, sorry, I thought they'd won. Spurs definitely getting into the final then. I thought Lazio came back and won it. Sorry, as I said, I make no apologies. The red wine was flowing and it was all about United. They lost on penalties, apparently. There we go. Thank you very much. Breaking news. Slow sports news. But yeah, I think Amorim has woken up to the reality that you can say we're playing the kids in the Europa League, in the Premier League, and focusing on the Europa League. There's no point in pretending. I don't want the pressure from Sir Jim Ratcliffe on Amorim saying, at the end of the day, every place you finish up, it's £3 million and we need the money. Fuck off, Sir Jim. We need to focus on the Europa League. We saw that last night. That's what we need to do. Great news around that as well. Ligt expected to be back and Ahmad expected to be back for both semi-final games. 1st of May in Spain against Athletic Club. The following week, the 8th of May, Old Trafford. Second leg is at Old Trafford. Both players expected to be involved, like a couple of new signings. But of course, in between that time, you've got to play Wolves and you've got to play Bournemouth. And you've really got to go Rasmus, Garnacho, Bruno, Casemiro, Maguire. Just limit the minutes. Enough minutes to keep them ticking over. Don't give them 2 weeks off, but we've got to limit the minutes. Mark, loads to get through. Can you tell us about Turkey? Look, very, very quickly, there's a few people that today I think are going to start putting it out there that they've got exclusives on Turkey. I spoke to a very good transfer journalist this morning who will probably put the update out of themselves. They basically said to me, there's nothing on Turkey. He's not close to going to Manchester United. He has got a verbal agreement on a 25 million release clause, but the relationship between Lyon and Turkey's agent isn't that good. And there's talk that that verbal agreement may not even be honoured. But basically what Turkey will do is, a la Hazard a decade ago, more than a decade ago, is, and also he was leaving, did he leave Lille as well? No, it wouldn't want Lyon, was it? Anyway, Hazard left France to go to Chelsea and basically just touted himself around to a load of clubs. Turkey will do the same. So he's not close to signing for Manchester United. He'll be talking to a lot of clubs. He's very cheap and there's a lot of interest from a lot of teams. So we're not close to Turkey at all. It's just coincidence or PR or whatever because he played against Man United. Honestly, having seen him in 2 legs, not necessarily convinced. I don't feel like we're missing out on a worldie if we don't get him. If we do get him, you're welcome. But I don't feel it was a good goal. He had a good dribble in the first half, but I can see how he'd fit into the team. But I'm not like obsessed about it anyway. But look, he's not close to joining United. Whatever drops today, he's not close to joining United, and that's from a very, very good source. Jem says, look, he's cheap, and a lot of people want him. He's going to do what every player does. What's your offer? What's your offer? What's my wages? What's my agent fee? This, that, and the other. And ultimately, we won't have any money till the end of the season anyway. Gems is a gem. She's gifted 5 memberships. Our defence will get better when we get the Butcher back, hopefully next season, says Mike Smith. I don't think we're missing Martinez massively. I think we're missing Ligt and Mazraoui at the moment. Next season, look, Martinez isn't going to be part of this. We can only live in the short term, but hopefully we'll come back. I fear the team have already played their cup final last night and won't perform. Look, Ben, we're not winning the Europa League yet. We've got bigger games. We're just alive. That's all I would say. We're alive and kicking when we were dead. I have a 100% win ratio when visiting Old Trafford, says Deacon, hoping that I maintain that record against Wolves. That lovely stuff. Lee Cape Town says, I'm hanging my head in shame when we went down after their penalty. I just switched off. My wife is a Liverpool supporter and was bantering me. Have you seen the people outside Old Trafford who had to watch it on a screen, who'd paid for a ticket and had left and couldn't get back in? Oh my God. That's going to live with you for life. I mean, you had a seat. You had that moment and you left early. I mean, look, I'm sure they're very happy that United won, but Mark Hoyland's hold-up play and passing has massively improved last few weeks, and yet people online are still saying Maguire is a better striker. Tolisso red card was the turning point, remember, says Zuki. Look, mate, I want to debrief it. There are amazing positives that we focused on last night, but there are also big issues that are going to cause us problems in the semi-final if we don't rectify them. Pratt Hurst gave Yoro a 4, says Rajaf. But this is what I'm talking about, mate. How sad must it be to have an existence that's so bitter that you want to bring negativity into such an amazing night? I understand waking up this morning and debriefing, but last night, it's surely pure elation. How do you give Lenny Yoro a 4? How? Yes, he's 19 and he was, a couple of mistakes, but overall, I thought he showed immense maturity in a defence that seemed to be changing every minute. Incredible. Hi Mark, it's my Mrs.'s 21st birthday, but that game's got me feeling emotional, says Luke. Thank you very much, Luke, and happy birthday to you, Mrs. Look at the goals. Last 2 out of 3 came from crosses. Players need to listen to the manager when they listen to the manager and stop shooting. We scored, says Tusha. Look, Casemiro, if that was Garnacho would have had a shot. Casemiro, experience, goes, Harry Maguire's in the box. He's one of the best headers of the ball in Europe. I'm pinging this to the back post. I'm telling you now, watch that Casemiro bit again. I think he gets a pass from Amas. He looks up. Lyon are down to 10 men, tired. They don't want to commit and pressing. They just want to keep position. He looks, Casemiro, that's a shot. Maybe even, I don't know, it's not fair to say what Bruno would do. Garnacho would have had a shot. Casemiro has a look at the shot and goes, nah, what? Harry Maguire's up front. All I've got to do is put this ball in accurately and he'll win it. And that's experience. That is experience. And look, as one of the things, a part of the debrief, I want to say, Ruben Amorim has got to sort Garnacho out now. Not in the summer, not in the next 18 months. He's got to sort him out now. I'm a huge fan of Garnacho. But the lack of passing, I've been sort of ignoring it. I haven't really. I have been quite critical of it. But last night, it was so evident. As the previous Super Chat said, Rasmus didn't get a shot on goal in the whole game. Again. And Garnacho had 3 or 4. And Rasmus was playing Garnacho in every time, and Bruno and everybody else, and yet it's not reciprocated. This kid, and he is a kid, is selfish. When he wasn't selfish, we went 1-0 up. He needs sitting down and asking, are you just going to keep doing that? In which case, I presume you're leaving in the summer. Or are you going to become the player you can become at Man United and pass the fucking ball? Because he's got... It's not... Sometimes I've been looking at it and going, is it in my head? Is it in everybody else's head? But watching it last night in a game of that enormity, his first instinct is not to play the pass. It's to dribble, over-dribble, shoot. Mate, Ronaldo used to do this, and he stopped. Now it's time to start passing the ball. Because your best bit of play in that game was the assist for Ugarte. You will get the praise for passing the ball. Stop being so selfish. And that's not hating on a player or anything like that. I'm a massive fan of Garnacho. But it's constructive criticism. Enough is enough. Because This is where it matters. It can't be the Garnacho show. It can't. You know, even Dorgu was shooting from stupid areas. Pass the ball, lads. Just get that in your head. Pass the ball. And it's really, really important. And of course, look, you know, he had a great chance. He was right to shoot there at the start of the second half, and it would have been game over. But Bruno hit the bar. You know, we should never have been in the position we were in. I see that it's not all on Onana now. Something has to be said for our defending. Look at how Arsenal defend as a team. We can't even do that with 7 since class of 99. I'm telling you now, class of 99, when Mazraoui goes off, it all falls apart. And I'm not making excuses, but I think lost in the moment, even I didn't realise the enormity of losing Mazraoui and Ligt now. You know, Luke Shaw wasn't fit. Lindelof was meant to come on. That could have been a bloody nightmare as well. So we've got no Heaven, we've got no Martinez, we've got no De Ligt, and we've got no Mazraoui. So, yeah, Yoro's a great potential player. Maguire had a good game, but you're using Luke Shaw, who's not fit, or Lindelof, who couldn't play. That was a dismantled back five, and it didn't work. And again, another thing, you talk about the shooting at the other end. This is tactical. I would say this is on Amorim's coaches. Why is it you watch the first goal, and I think the second goal, you've got Maguire, Shaw, and Dorgu in close proximity marking one player. And then you've got a Lyon player on the back post completely unmarked. Why, in a back five, is the fullback tucking in to that extent? And it's been happening for years. But somebody needs to explain why we do that, because I can't see any advantage to leaving a guy on the back post unmarked with the space to take a shot or put a cross in. It's crap defending. I don't necessarily blame Dorgu because I've seen it happen with Delo for years. I've seen it happen with Wan-Bissaka for years. Why are we tucking in fullbacks and leaving somebody free on the edge of the 6-yard box on the back post? That's a tactical thing. We wouldn't have conceded 2 of our goals if we'd dealt with that problem. So again, you've got to look at that sort of thing. Callum says, Dorgu, poor last few games. Media and pundits are our enemy. Happy Good Friday, everybody, says Carlos. Has Maguire unlocked Ollie status with that header, says Mike. I don't think he's going to get Ollie status for that, mate, because that was to win a Champions League. But it will certainly go down as a very memorable moment. And as I said to you last night, trust me, you're going to remember last night for a long, long time. It was amazing. Good morning, Mark. And you Devils still on the ultimate high. Let's win this tournament for the season for us, says Connor. Say what you want, but Maguire's been one of our best players this season, says Goldio. Give Kobe the new contract, says Sano. Mainu's signing a new contract. There's no way he's not going to sign a new contract. Amazing night, says Chris. Our happy 6 months. We'll get into some of the transfer stuff in a bit. It still feels like a dream. We don't deserve the agony, says Granger. Garnacho reminds me of Mason Greenwood, says Rajaf. The criticisms for players is never permanent. I will always despise Di Maria, says Acid23. We're in survival mode right now, says Liam. I will never forget thinking we have literally flatlined like Kiefer Sutherland. There was no way back. How on earth did we find a way back, says Nick. I'm bringing my kids to their first game this weekend. I hope to see a performance, says Rozzo. Athletic Club are probably favourites to win the tournament. They are. Zero connection. I think they are the favourites with the bookies. At least we have 2 legs to try and cause an upset. Rangers defended really well against them. It's going to be tough. It's going to be very, very tough. And I think that's the thing that, and it's down to your personal feelings as to when you want to start moving back into reality away from last night. And I don't suggest that you do it anytime soon. But when you do, we only got into the semi-final last night. Like, it gets harder. And you know what? A bit of feedback as well. Sociedad, we went through because they went down to 10 men. Lyon, we were 4-2 down against 10 men. That is a big part of it. Like, there is... I don't want to listen. I'm like, la, 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 amazing night, United. I don't want to listen to any of that. But of course, I know deep down that what the fuck happened? We were 2-0 up and cruising. How have we allowed that to happen? We're very lucky to be back in it. Not many teams come back from 4-2 down to 5-4 in extra time. And we were playing against 10 men. I mean, even somebody said to me that the second yellow card for Tolisso was unlucky. I think he does clip Yoro. I just think that's a trick of a camera angle. Like, the way Yoro goes down, he's been clipped. It might be minimal contact, but there's no way he's diving. I think the camera angle makes it look like there's no contact, but there's no reason for Yoro to go down in that situation unless he's an absolute IQ wizard and goes, I'm running down the right wing, but I'm going to dive because Trossard's on a yellow card and he'll get him sent off, and that's going to help us out. I just don't think he can figure that one out that quickly. So I think he must have clipped him. But I admit, from one camera angle, it looks like he trips over thin air. AB15 says, I want to play Spurs. Amorim's doing fantastic. Let's not fool ourselves with these players. Remarkable comeback, but let's get behind Amorim and our players. Great to see Sir Alex enjoying the game, says the Valkyrie. I missed comeback closed TV after Lyon's fourth Pratt, says the Lonely Loner. Ben says, I'm not working, chilling with an incredible hangover, living in Aberdeen from Altrincham, but my Scottish neighbours must have thought what was going on last night. I'm massively hungover this morning. I just sat on my own watching the fan forum, and then I was just watching the replays, drinking the red wine, watching my watch along. I implore you all to do it. It was just an amazing night. But I think that we've got Jem says, rest in peace to Joe Thompson, with a lovely message there. But you know what? I really do think that we're not a very good side. You know, I think that to me is very, very obvious. And there's a few criticisms I have that I refuse to say. Maybe you can pull them out of me on a Friday night show tonight. But there's a few criticisms I don't want to even give this morning because I don't think those players deserve them. But there are issues in that team. And I think one of the things, I did it in 99. About a week later, I sat there and went, what if Sheringham doesn't equalise and we lost that game? What am I doing now? And there's a little bit of me this morning that's sort of going, shut up. And I'm thinking, what if that comeback doesn't happen? What's happening now? Can you imagine? You know, this is why I feel like a little bit like digging out a few of the negative elements around our club, is that I know as well as you, we've got people in and around our fan base who are troublemakers. They're not genuine. They're jumping around going, I can't believe it. Yeah. Put the camera on me. Yeah. I can't believe it. Yeah, at the weekend, they were saying something very, very different. And if we'd gone out, they'd be going, put the camera on me. Enough is enough. And I just think, I don't really understand that because I don't think it's genuine. Like, if we'd gone out last night, I wouldn't be going Amorim out. I'd be like, I just can't believe where we are as a football club. I can't believe what Sir Jim Radcliffe and the Glazers have done to this football club. We don't deserve this as a fan base. And I think there's a level of integrity to that. And I think it's still relevant this morning. But I don't think there's a level of genuine integrity to this this manager obsession, which doesn't seem to change. I never understood the Roy Keane, Gary Neville pile-on after a Manchester City draw with a United side that's terrible, that probably deserved to win the game. I never understood that Amorim out, you're a fraud stuff after the Newcastle game, when basically Lindelof at centre-back cost us 3 goals. And we were rotating for this game. And I never would have understood if we'd lost last night how people would have gone, it's on Amorim. I mean, I read something from the Manchester Evening News that gave Amorim a 6 out of 10 and said he got every substitution wrong in the second half. And I thought, how can you get the Mazraoui sub wrong? He's got a family issue. He's got to come off, and so's Lindelof. So you can only bring Luke Shaw on or a kid. You've got to go Luke Shaw. How can you get the Ugarte sub wrong when you've got a choice between Casemiro and Ugarte? I didn't like any of them going off. I thought they both played well, but you've got to take one off to get an attacking midfielder on because we're not scoring goals. He takes Ugarte off, who was unlucky, but Casemiro gets the assists that win the game. So how can that be wrong? The only one I think he got wrong was taking Rasmus off and keeping Garnacho on. But ultimately, we won the game. And not look at Unai Emery. He's a fantastic coach. They might still be in Europe if he kept Rashford and McGinn on. So managers do get things wrong, but we won the game. And I think where bloody pen pushing journalists don't get any idea, or fans who just want to moan don't get any idea. and I don't think it's lost on you, and I don't think it's lost on me, is that we can talk about tactics. We can talk about why are we leaving people free on the back post in a back five, and we can talk about why a player's shooting instead of passing, and that reflects on the manager, and it does. And we can talk about systems, and we can talk about substitutions. But what people don't want to talk about, and what you can't put a price on, and what many managers can't do, is that when you are 2-0 up, and you gift the lead back 4-2, but at 2-2, you go down to 10, the opposition goes down to 10 men and still scores 2 goals. The mental trauma that team is going through is incredible. They're gone. They're mentally gone. Doesn't matter how strong you think your personality is to bounce back and all that. You're gone. You've won the game at half-time. You've drawn the game at full-time. They've had a man sent off, and then they've scored 2 legitimate goals. You're an embarrassment. You know, the season is over. And somehow the manager instills belief to keep going and do what they did. And nobody will ever put a price on that. And it amazes me, because the greatest manager that's ever played the game or managed the game built a whole career on you never give up. You keep going. Our whole history is what happened last night. It pisses people off. It pisses rivals off. Lyon won't believe it. But only certain managers can do that. And Ruben Amorim did it yesterday. I don't know how. Look, there was a period in that game where I'm talking about sabotage. I'm talking about wankers. I'm talking about knobheads. I've absolutely had it with them. And they pull it around like that. I mean, I'm trying to find this. Numero says it wasn't Amorim. But, mate, you think that. But it's not definitive. There might be a few people who agree with you, but I've played the game. I've watched the game. I've seen United be 4-0 down to Liverpool at Anfield and not switch on and lose 7-0. I've seen us get battered loads of times. So it's not the players. Same players can go from 1-0 down to 4-0 down. These players consistently, over the last 2 or 3 years, down tools, give up. So it's not the players who turned that round yesterday. It's the touchline. It's Amorim. He's basically instilled belief in those players to believe that they can do it. And then the players have delivered it. But they haven't done it off their own. They've not done it off their own arse. Absolutely not. Mark, what's your early predictions for the match against Athletics, as Mohamed? Well, with Ligt and Ahmad back, I think this is huge. I think if you've got Ahmad on the pitch last night, different game. Completely different game. That maturity in the final third is what we need. But they've got to learn to pass. The individualism has to stop. I mean, if I was being critical of Amorim, I'd say, why aren't we marking the back post? And why have we got certain players in the team that won't pass? They're the two things to take away. Because I understand the defensive breakdown. I understand why we conceded in Lyon. Onana had a bad game. I understand why we conceded goals yesterday. Luke Shaw was terrible and Mazraoui going off cost us. But what I don't understand is why we're not marking the back post or why we're shooting instead of passing. And those things need to stop. I was in the Stretford end last night. Unbelievable. But would like to stress every single person there was chanting for Amorim throughout, says Jay. Mate, Amorim's not going anywhere. There's a bunch of hypocrites around our fan base who are celebrating this morning, and we know who they are, and they're frauds. They're the frauds. They're the people that have been, building this momentum around this manager since Man City. And they might be smiling, but I think inside they won't be smiling, because I think some people are very selfish and just want to go, I was right, I told you so. And that's not necessarily United fans, but I certainly think we know who it is, whether it's in the fan base, whether it's journalists, whether it's ex-players. But I don't really care. I know you're pure. I know I'm pure. And I know what I witnessed last night will be certainly in my top 10 best moments as a Man United fan in my life. And people will say, you're shit in the league. Ha, it's a quarter-final of the Europa League. But I've watched football long enough to know. I've played football long enough to know. I remember winning a cup when I was 15. Cup final was quite boring. Semi-final, we won comfortably. Quarter-final, we were losing 3-0. We got it to extra time, 4-4, and then we won a penalty shootout. And we don't talk about the final as much as we talk about the quarterfinal, because that's a step to the final, and that was the game. And this is what I mean. I'm getting goosebumps here. Last night, unless something mad happens in the semi-final and final, last night will be the thing. If we win this Europa League, that we go, it's a bit like the Liverpool game in the FA Cup last year. That was the game, really. That was the madness. And I make no apologies for being absolutely ecstatic this morning and last night. And I'm getting goosebumps from it even now. So I know how important it is. And yeah, Lewis Jackson says, I loved your reactions to it, Mark. I've watched that watch along last 20 minutes twice. I know the clips, but for me, I enjoy watching the actual last 20 minutes more than the clips, because it's the story around the clips. It's the despair of, there's 4 or 5 minutes where I'm just, we're dead. The club is dead. We're finished. It's a bit like 99. Like, you've got to go through but I thought we were going to win the treble. Bayern Munich deserved to win this. I thought we were going to win the treble. You've got to go through that despair. And I think this is the thing about football. I was talking to Robbie about this earlier. The best moments in football come from the elation you get when you thought it wasn't going to happen. You've got to stare into the abyss to appreciate the highs. And it's like life, isn't it? When you've experienced trauma and loss and grief, you appreciate the good times more because you know what the bad times feel like. And I think last night, we stared into the abyss for a few minutes and saw no way back. And then they delivered a way back. And it was just, I was close to tears last night. I really was. It was just unbelievable. I don't know how at 4-2, and remember, you can be 4-2 down and unlucky, but at 4-2 down, I would say Lyon, unbelievable. I've got no time for Lyon. I don't care about Lyon at the moment. At some point, I'll feel sorry for them, but I've got no care about them. I care about you, I care about me, I care about United. But at 4-2 down, against 10 men, and they deserve to be 4-2 up, 2-2, and they get a man sent off, 4-2 with 10 men, with what? 10 minutes left? 5 minutes left? I don't care if it's 20 minutes left. We're not winning that game. We don't deserve to win that game. We're awful. And then a few minutes later, Harry Maguire's heading in the winner. And I'll tell you what as well, and I'll say this now, and I said it last night. After Mainoo's goal, we'd have been buzzing. We would have been buzzing for penalties. I'm telling you now, they would have won it on penalties. He nearly saves Bruno's. Watch Bruno's penalty. Every time I think he's going to save it. Like, he nearly saves Bruno's. He would have won them that penalty shootout. Nothing against Onana. Maybe we would have subbed Binder on, but they would have won on penalties. He looked a very, very, very good goalkeeper for penalties. So it's not just to come back to 4-4. It's the fact that we bloody win it. I'll take Cherky for 25, says Harvey. You absolutely sat down the haters. Hope Henry was watching, says James. We all did, mate. We all sat down the haters because instead of, you know where you earn your stripes? After the Man City game, when ex-players are just weirdly going after the manager. After the Newcastle game, when certain fans are saying sack Amorim. That's what being a fan is resisting the temptation to jump on the bandwagon and overreact. Being a fan sometimes is going, no, I'm sticking with this. I believe in this. It's not fair. And that's what you get your rewards for. And again, you can't flip around. But if you flip-flop around, your emotions are fake. If you stick to what you believe, then you get the rewards. And that's what happened last night. And look, I don't back everything about Man United. I don't back the Glazers. I don't back Sir Jim. There's certain players I haven't backed, and I think I've been proven right. But to be going in on the manager just seems incredible to me. in the circumstances. Fofana for Lyon looked good, says Kura. What do you think? I'm going to talk a bit about transfers in a moment. What went to game yesterday, never been so loud, says Bulky. If that went to Pennos, their keeper puts them through, says Staff. I completely agree. Hi Mark, love from Norway. Check out Fabrizio's post about Amorim. I'll have a look at that, Mystify. What's your early prediction? Done that one from Hamid. Could you argue that Maguire is worth what we paid for him after what he's done for us, says James? I don't think Maguire will ever be worth £80 million, mate. But having said that, I suppose technically over the years, what he's cost us per year, you could make an argument, I suppose. Do you think we will rotate for the rest of the Premier League games? I hope we do, Nick. We are so shallow in certain areas, we can't afford any injuries. I think if we're going to get anything out of this Europa League, we need to keep the squad we've got. Like, we can't lose another attacking player. We need to keep this team. Luke Shaw almost cost us the game, says Remo. Look, in relation to Luke Shaw, I think it's an absolute waste of time. I really do. Because he's never fit and he costs a lot of money. But I've always said, if Luke Shaw's fit, he's one of the best left-sided players in Europe. But I think what we're seeing now with Luke Shaw, and I might be wrong, is he can't stay fit and he doesn't play enough. And if you don't play, the game moves on. And he looked like someone last night where the game had moved on. He looked like a player that hasn't played a lot of football in 2 years. And he hasn't played a lot of football in 2 years. So you can be a player that gets injured, but when you play, you're good. But he just hasn't played for so long. You know, you can't just pick up the controller and be, you know, the best player in the room. He doesn't play enough football. And he looked like a player that didn't play enough football. And that's why I think Amorim would have brought Lindelof on if he didn't lose Lindelof as well at half-time. So, yeah, I think that's quite interesting. There's a little bit of transfer stuff I want to bring into you as well. We will have an 8 o'clock show. I forgot to say Happy Easter, by the way. It's Good Friday. I mean, it's a Good Friday anyway, isn't it? But it is bank holiday in the UK today. We've got an interview with Maguire coming out, actually, around midday on the channel. So make sure you keep on that. Also, you know, there's so much to watch on the channel. Just keep watching that last 20 minutes of the watch along. It's captivating stuff. Even the chat and what was happening, just watching the live chat, it's incredible. But I want to just go through a few things that David Ornstein has said about Manchester United that may have been lost from last night. It's never over here, says Ruben Amorim. So basically, this is coming in from David Ornstein around transfers. He said, around striker targets, I'm not sure at present, and perhaps Man United aren't either. We know Sesko was favoured a year ago, and he is joined by the likes of Delap on their radar. The issue is the leading clubs seeking a striker tend to be looking at the same players, and that pool is not deep. So even if United have a leading candidate, it doesn't mean they will get them. And I think that's really interesting what David Ornstein said, because obviously we don't know what Manchester United are going. The position, everything goes back to last night. Everything goes back to last night, and everything goes forward to Athletic Club and hopefully the final. If we don't win this tournament, we stared into that abyss last night for a few minutes. Every player we get linked to is irrelevant. You know, you can talk about Cherky, you can talk about Xavi Simons, you can talk about Sesko, you can talk about Edison, but I don't think any of them actually happen if we don't win the Europa League. And we had a little glimpse last night of what that's all about. Interestingly, what David Ornstein said about Rasmus was that there is no indication that Man United are looking to move him on. So all these people who keep putting stories out about Italy and Price and this, that and the other, I just think we just need to hold fire at the moment. Like I'm interested in players that we're linked to, and we definitely do need to sign players, and we can definitely discuss it. But like, we're almost looking into a future that we've got no idea what's going to happen with. We've just got to focus on what's in front of us. And I mean, I'm quite excited that we're at home to Wolves on Sunday, and we might get to see a couple of younger players given some game time. But it's so important, and we saw it in the second half yesterday. If you lose a player, and the player that comes on isn't up to it, the game will change very quickly. And I think losing Mazraoui yesterday was massive for us. And obviously Luke Shaw just wasn't up to it. And defensively, it got very chaotic. And you know what? If we're writing a list to debrief on, how do you concede 2 goals with 10 when you're playing against 10 men? How does a team that's got 10 men keep carving you open to get penalties and goals? They had chances. Because defensively we were a mess. It was chaotic, and we need to get back to a bit of structure. But to do that, you're going to need Mazraoui, you're going to need De Ligt. I think if we've got a defence with De Ligt and Mazraoui in it, we're okay. I think if we've got an attack that Ahmad's in it, I think we're okay. And you've got to try and manipulate that situation. I love seeing Ruben happy. It makes me happy, says Bill. But look, I'm still not in the mood to start deep diving into this beyond Garnacho's got to start passing. We've got to start dealing with crosses to the back post. And we've got to try and keep players that matter fit. But of course, there was a lot wrong with last night. You know, you could play that extra time at 4-2 down 10 times and we'd probably go out 8 times. One of them we might get penalties and one of them we win. So what we did last night wasn't normal. Wasn't normal at all. We need a player like McGinn, says Callum. Amas is very young, playing in matches, nice experience, says Somnath. I'd still go for Kane, says Nick. Pure emotion you showed last night was incredible. Please keep up the good work. You're a legend, says Karen. You're all legends. I'm so proud of the community. It was been doing this for a very long time, and unfortunately, there's not been many nights last night to share. But when you do share those moments, you just, you know, it was amazing. I was glad to share it with you. Obviously, I you know, you can't top some of the stories that are coming in from the Stretford end and people that are at the game, and you can't beat live football. But if I'm not going to be there, then I'd rather be here sharing it with you lot. It was a very, very special night for a very special community. And I don't do nervous, I do worried. And I did say at 2-0 up, there's always a sting in the tail with this team. It's never cruising. And I said before the Lyon tie completely, I think we're going to win the Europa League. But if you think we're going to do it comfortably, then you're in for a rude awakening. Hopefully, if we're going to win the Europa League, and I think we will, it will never be that. I can't deal with that. Never again. Never again. Never again in United's history do I want to go through that again. But I'm sure against Athletic Club there will be moments, and I'm sure if we get to the final there'll be moments, but we can't go through that again. Omar Barada is the only person that didn't celebrate, says Orange. Well, he's a businessman, isn't he? He's a corporate suit. Amorim has somehow made the players fight. If it was any manager from the last 10 years, we would have put their head down, says Mirror. Mate, if Amorim can get those players to fight from 4-2 down in extra time, and it wasn't great football, but they fought, imagine what he's going to do with his own players. That's the line for me. If you can get 10 hogs underperformers to fight back in a game like that and keep you alive, imagine what happens when he's got players that actually suit his system. We will be even better. And that's got to be the message, hasn't it? Like, he could still get sacked. He could still get sacked in a year. I think next season is going to be very difficult for us. Even if we win the Europa League, I think next season will be very difficult because I still don't think we're in the top 8 in the Premier League next year. I think we're miles off. But the message is clear. If you give this manager the players, we will get better as a team. And that's what needs to happen. We thought it was going to happen. Moment last season was the FA Cup against Coventry. Moments like this matter more if we win the trophy, says Ross. Gerard says, Amorim says we're going to play some kids in the Premier League games. We will suffer, but the Europa League is our priority. Great to hear. Watching the match unfold was literally like going through the 5 stages of grief, says Gems. What's your ideal back 3 once De Ligt is back, says Sydney. De Ligt, I think, is our best central defender. Mazraoui is probably our best right-sided defender. And, I mean, you can't drop Maguire, but can you drop Yoro? Look, these are big things to say. And, you know, I really want to say that, that, you know, competitions for places are so important. Yeah. Okay, a lot of people saying Garfield just sending prayers to Joe Thompson's family. This is just something that's come out in the last half an hour. Man United have posted out. A man who epitomised our club's values. We are saddened to hear that Joe Thompson has passed away. A warm personality who had a deep connection with our club from a young age. Our thoughts are with Joe's family and friends at this time. So, passed away with cancer 5 years after retiring from playing, which is obviously very, very sad news, and that's what people are talking about in the chat. So thoughts with his family and friends in relation to that. Thanks for sharing that, Garfield. Dunny says, I'm 20 and witnessed something special yesterday. Mark, why would we sell Rasmus unless we're buying 2 strikers anyway, says Dari. And did you notice Amorim saying Mazraoui left at half-time for personal reasons? Hope all okay, says IQ. Yeah, so did Lindelof as well. I mean, look, we can all speculate what that's about, but I think it was a big moment for Manchester United. Sam says, as a Manc living abroad, the watch-alongs and live chat on United Stand make me feel less alone in my love for United. Thank you for all being part of something that means more than anyone realises to so many. Mate, not everybody can make it to the ground. When you're on a watch-along like that last night, it's the next best thing. You know, I've watched games on my own before, and you do it. But when you watch it on a watch-along in a community like that, you feel part of something. I mean, I'm stood in a room watching a game on my own, but I never feel on my own. I feel like you absorb that community feel. It was incredible last night, absolutely incredible, and I loved it. And I don't think I'll stop watching that last 20 minutes of the watch-along for a few days yet over the Easter weekend, because it's just absorbing, it's captivating, it's those despair to elation moments. It was absolutely incredible, and I absolutely loved it. So thank you everybody who got involved in that. Make sure you smash a like on this video and subscribe. Calvin says, in Jose's Europa League win, we survived a few scares and went on to win it after a poor season. This year feels the same. Yeah, I think we're going to win it, but I don't think we're favourites to win it. I still think we're going to have to go through the mill a little bit, and we are playing the favourites, and then Spurs in the final will have its own problems if we get there. So I think it's going to be very, very, very interesting. Last night was the closest to me running around when I was a kid back in '99. I watched the last 15 minutes of the watch along. It's brilliant, says United Nick. Yeah, if you want to go back to that last 15 minutes in the watch along, do check it out. It's a very interesting watch. It certainly isn't a great watch if we'd lost. I'd never watch it again. I don't know what, and you know what? That enhances the performance of last night, because if you take into account what we'd be doing if we'd lost, and then you think about what we're doing today. I woke up this morning and I was just like, yes, I've got a hangover, but I went, I'm so happy. I'm so grateful. Because the chances of that happening at 4-2 are probably less than 10%. It's miraculous what happened, really. And we shouldn't, in any way, shape or form, take it for granted. We're very fortunate to be in this position this morning, and therefore we should be very happy about it, because we easily could have been out. And I don't feel any remorse towards Lyon, but they must be absolutely gutted. Absolutely gutted. But across the two legs, Real Madrid didn't deserve to beat Arsenal. And across the two legs, Lyon didn't deserve to beat us, but probably should have done. We were architects of our own downfall. I feel that in the first leg in France, Amorim coached a win. And in the second leg at Old Trafford, Amorim coached a win. And for whatever reason, and we can all list them down, yet again, the players managed to make it difficult for themselves. But across the two legs, we deserve to win it. Of course, when Lyon are 4-2 up with 5 minutes to go, or whatever it was, you'd say, well, Lyon should have won it. But how we got to that point, that needs to be studied, because we won't get away with that against better sides. We can't keep letting teams back into games, and we do that very often. You can't, you won't get those sort of results all the time. You know, people forget. We won the Champions League in '99, but we didn't win it again for 9 years. There was plenty of games where we could have gone on to win more Champions Leagues if we'd done what we did in 99, but you're not going to keep doing it. You can't keep doing it. Some people never do it. We did it, but we can't rely on that. Like, we've got to stop making the mistakes. And as I said, the big takeaways for me for Amorim is, if you're playing a back five, mark your back post. It's disgusting to be tucking in like that. And in the final third, you've got to pass. If people are in a better position than you, pass the fucking ball, don't dribble and don't shoot. And that is a respect thing, and that is a tactical thing, and that's got to change. United Nick says, first time at Old Trafford in nearly a decade. Last night was the closest thing to me running around like I did back in 99. Well, look, an amazing night. Absolutely loved it. Make sure you smash a like on the video. We've got an interview with Maguire coming up at midday. And of course, we've got the Friday night show coming up tonight as well. It is a bank holiday in the UK, so unless something big breaks, I don't think we'll have anything other live content until probably the 8 o'clock show. But we have got these interviews coming in from what's his name? I've played the game, Harry Maguire, which is going to be interesting to watch. Yeah, I just want to say enjoy it. You know, I think the credibility of those fans who actually do support the manager and haven't, you know, deviated from that and haven't tried to ridicule him about system or, you know, fraud or anything like that. I think it's, you know, it feels a lot sweeter for us today because of that. And I'm very, very happy this morning, even though, yeah, probably a little bit tired, etc. But ultimately, it's a cracking performance from Manchester United, and one that I think we will cherish for a very, very long time. What's going wrong with my bloody computer? I've lost my live chat here. I will be back with you. 1 minute. I can't speak. I can't speak. Yeah, make sure you smash a like on the video and get involved. Just while I do this. I knew it was going to do that. It slows right down when it's going to crash. Try again. Oh, for God's sake. Okay, that's not going to work, is it? Okay, I better just end it there. Thanks everyone for tuning in. I've actually got a video going up with Robbie on That's Football, our Premier League predictions. If you want to go and check that out on That's Football, that's going up in a moment as well. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Watch out for the Harry Maguire interview that's coming out in about an hour. Obviously, Beth was there after the game asking some questions. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Just keep the smile on your face. Keep supporting this manager. And Simply Red says, nothing wrong with Onana sticking it to their fans. Why should we be scared or superstitious? Should be able to beat any version of our opponents. I'm not going to get involved in that, Simply Red. Suffice to say, he shouldn't be doing that after the first goal because he looks a fucking idiot. Do it at full time. Don't do it after 10 minutes. But look, some people will agree with that, some people won't. But running over to their fans when it's 10 minutes into a game and only 1-0 just sets you up. It's a bit like, you know, kissing the cup before the game last week. Like, do it afterwards. That's all. Just do it afterwards. There's nothing wrong with doing it. Just do it afterwards. Take care, everyone. Speak to you all in a bit. Thanks for watching.